I'm Angie, and you're watching Dante's Vaccination.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? You know, I've been telling you guys for years and years and years, the most dangerous weapon in the world is a microphone and a camera. It can work for you or it can completely work against you. You can put the truth in a jail cell and throw away the key, but eventually the truth will find a way to break free. So a lot of Mexican fighters, trainers, boxing analysts, they do interviews on Spanish-speaking channels, podcast shows, TV shows. And normally whatever they say in these interviews, it doesn't even get reported on US boxing websites, which is why a lot of people that do these interviews in Spanish, they feel more comfortable to completely open up and tell people how they really feel. You know, like the kind of people that smile in your face and act like they're real cool with you, but when that person goes home and when he's in front of his family talking, he speaks freely. Everything is completely unfiltered. This is exactly what people are doing on these Spanish shows. We've seen this with Bernardo Usana, who works with ESPN. He's the Mexican boxing analyst. On ESPN Deportes, he called Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence cobardes, which means coward in Spanish. If you didn't watch my video when I reported this, I'll put the link in the description box so you can watch that video. If you missed that video, you really need to check it out because it is extremely informative. So going back to the point of these fighters that are far more comfortable to open up completely when they're doing these interviews in Spanish, that's exactly what trainer Robert Garcia did recently. Eric Morales and Marco Antonio Barrera, they actually have a podcast that they do together. And they interviewed Robert Garcia. I'm going to give you guys a translation, and I'm telling you right now, this translation is 100% accurate. Robert was talking about the other gyms that they work with, like Manny Robles' gym, Joel Diaz gym, just talking about sending his fighters to different gyms, how they basically work together. Barrera, he was about to ask Robert a question. Eric Morales, he cut off Marco. He said, sorry, Barrera. And Eric Morales, he asked Robert Garcia in response to what Garcia had just said about working with different gyms. He said, with these type of actions that you guys have between Mexicans, which and against which centers, gyms, are the most difficult to work with? The Mexicans and against who? Robert, he responds by saying, look, I believe here at our gym, I see that right now there is a lot of Europeans, a lot of Russians, even though they're from different countries. And Joel, he has a lot of those, a lot of Russian fighters in his gym. And maybe we can say we can have that type of rivalry. And then he says this part, which seems to me like Eric Morales didn't expect him to say this. He says, but I believe us, meaning Mexicans, in any case, has to be against the Morenos, which means the blacks. And Eric Morales, he responded by saying, the Morenos? And Robert Garcia, he responds by saying, yes, I believe so. That's the reality.
Perdón, Barrera, de ese tipo de acciones que tienen entre los mexicanos, ¿cuáles contra quiénes son los entres más duros? De la mexicanada contra...
Mira, yo pienso que nosotros, al menos aquí nosotros en el gimnasio, y miro también, ahorita hay mucho europeo, mucho ruso le decimos, aunque son de diferentes países, pero decimos los rusos, y Joel tiene ahorita mucho de eso ahí en su gimnasio, mucho ruso en su gimnasio, y quizá podemos decir, puede haber esa rivalidad, pero yo pienso que nosotros de todos siempre ha sido contra los morenos.
¿Contra los morenos?
Sí, yo pienso que sí, en realidad.
Okay, guys, so from that point on, Robert Garcia, he tried to make examples of what he meant when he said that basically the only rivals that Mexicans have are the black fighters. He talked about how they were fighting on the Oscar Valdez, the Shakur Stevenson Oscar Valdez card. And he said that when him and his fighters were in the locker room, they were in the locker room with other fighters, which a lot of them were black, in the same division that Robert Garcia's fighter was fighting at. And he was talking about how the black fighters was looking at his fighter and he was looking at them. And he was saying you could feel the tension because it was a black and Mexican rivalry. Robert, he continued by saying, you know, these guys, they're probably going to have to fight against each other in the future. And then Robert Garcia, he says, so there is that rivalry there. He means towards the Morenos. Then he says, not because I hate them or I don't like them, end quote. You know, guys, the irony here is fascinating when you consider the fact that Robert Garcia is training a black fighter right now by the name of Anthony Joshua. And he's doing this interview in Spanish and revealing that Mexicans' biggest rivals are the black fighters. In other words, their biggest enemies are the black fighters. For those of you who've been following my channel for quite some time, you've heard me say fans are always talking about the biggest rivalry is Mexico versus Puerto Rico or Mexico versus some other country. And I've always told you guys, the reality is the biggest rivalry is Mexico versus USA. Black fighters versus Mexican fighters is the biggest rivalry. And I only say USA versus Mexico because the majority of Mexican fighters, they come into the ring with a Mexican flag. Matter of fact, I remember Fernando Vargas, he actually used to request that they sing the Mexican national anthem in his fights, even though he was born in the States. So anyway, Robert Garcia, he just corroborated what I said about the biggest rivalry being Mexico versus USA. I mean, hearing Robert Garcia say this, it makes so much sense when you think about some of the things that Robert Garcia has done in the past. You guys may recall when Floyd Mayweather fought Marcos Maidana, Lil Wayne, I think he was there. I think he walked Floyd Mayweather in, but he was there at the fight for sure. After Floyd Mayweather beat Maidana and his team, Robert Garcia, they were headed back to the dressing room and they were still chanting like they won the fight. Lil Wayne, he was basically standing outside of a dressing room, you know, and as they were walking past Lil Wayne said, you guys lost. Like, basically, what are you guys doing all this chanting for? And you guys lost. And when Robert Garcia walked past Lil Wayne, he hit Lil Wayne with a bottle. He hit him in the face with a bottle. It was like some kind of water bottle. But the way he did it was like on some straight gangbanging stuff. The video, the footage of him doing this is actually on my channel. I'll try to find it and try to put the link in my description box for that video so you guys can check that out as well. But the reason why I'm telling you that story is because by way of contrast, Freddie Roach, for you guys, you can watch this video on my channel as well when I reported this. Freddie Roach, he basically said something racist to Robert Garcia in his face. He said something racist to Robert Garcia that included the word Mexican in it. And Robert Garcia's immediate reaction or his response was to say, oh, he's getting racist? Oh, he's being racist now? As Freddie Roach was being escorted out the building, he walked past Ellie Setback. He says something racist to Ellie Setback, with Ellie Setback being Jewish, which Ellie, he starts saying to Freddie Roach, what did I do to you? What did I do to you, Freddie? As Freddie Roach is walking out of the building, Robert Garcia is yelling across the room saying, man, I look up to you, Freddie. I look up to you. So the point is, Freddie Roach, he hits Lil Wayne in the face with a bottle for doing absolutely nothing, never saying anything offensive to Robert Garcia. But then when Freddie Roach says something racially offensive towards you, towards your entire race, he starts telling Freddie Roach how he admires him. No violence, no bottles being thrown, no yelling, no curse words, no type of retaliation. And we know why there was no type of retaliation. Robert, he told us why in this interview. Because he doesn't see white people as his rivals. He only sees the Morenos as his rivals. You guys might remember when Mikey Garcia was fighting against Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner, he started calling Mikey Garcia Mickey, like Mickey Mouse. And Mikey Garcia, he looked at that as a perfect opportunity to really tell Adrian Broner what he thought about him. So he put up an image on his Instagram and portrayed Adrian Broner as Donkey Kong. And then just to double down, after Mikey Garcia beat Adrian Broner, he showed up to the press conference with a banana, which was obviously premeditated. You could tell that they were laughing about the whole idea before they even did it. Like, man, you should show up at the press conference with a banana after all that whole Donkey Kong stuff. And once again, like I said, when Freddie Roach said some racist stuff to Robert Garcia, there was nothing that he said about Freddie Roach or his race. There was nothing that he did or attempted to do to Freddie Roach. The Mexican comedian, and a big boxing fan, by the way, at least in support of the Mexican fighters, George Lopez. For years, George Lopez, when he used to do his stand-ups, he would always talk about his grandmother and how she's racist towards black people. She doesn't like blacks. But then a couple years ago, Lopez, he did a stand-up. He made this joke where he said, "It's two things you don't do in a Mexican family. One is park in our driveway, and the other is bring home a black person." So within a couple of years, he went from telling people that his grandmother was racist towards black people to then telling people that Mexicans in general are racist towards blacks. George Lopez, he felt comfortable to make a joke like that because he felt that was something that all Mexicans already knew. That was something all Mexicans felt. So he felt he was just saying a joke that every Mexican could relate to. And when Robert Garcia said what he said to Eric Morales, he felt the same way. In Robert Garcia's own words, that's just the reality of it. And I'll close out with saying this. When it comes to AJ, he doesn't know these things. AJ is from the UK. I'm sure the only thing AJ knew about Robert Garcia is his name and the guys and the fighters that he has trained. But hey, just look at the bright side. Robert Garcia, he says, "Oh, I don't hate them. It's not that I don't like them. They just happen to be our rivals by default, by nature." And this is why I've always asked this question, especially when it comes to fighters like Canelo. If you feel that black fighters are your biggest rivals, then it should be Mexicans that should be constantly calling out the best black fighters, right? It shouldn't be Mexican fighters avoiding black fighters if you feel that they're your biggest rivals. I mean, if that's the case, going after the best black fighters should be complete priority. But in reality, it's the complete contrary. Robert Garcia, who was Devin Haney's mandatory, he gave up his #1 spot just to avoid a title shot with Devin Haney. We already know Canelo's rap sheet when it comes to him avoiding Jamal Charlo and Demetrius Andrade. Jaime Munguia, who's been the mandatory for Demetrius Andrade and Jamal Charlo's belt for over a year, showing no urgency to fight for a title. Virgil Ortiz, showing no urgency to fight for a title at the welterweight division. What Robert Garcia really means when he says black fighters are our biggest rivals, he means we can't afford to lose to them because they are our biggest enemies, our biggest rivals. And as far as Anthony Joshua goes, he's completely oblivious to what goes on in the States because he's from the UK. So that's the reason why he's going in this situation blind, not really knowing what Robert Garcia is about. With that being said, I'm gonna wrap this video up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Key Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodekey.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram.
My name is Chris, and I'm all the way here from Anchorage, Alaska at Scalp Carolinas, and I'm here for my second treatment of SMP. Well, I was sitting at home one day and going over my Facebook page, and they have different, like advertisements popping up, and I saw one for SMP. And I saw some pictures of some guys, a before and after, And I was looking at that, and it caught my attention. So I Googled it, S&P. Nothing showed up in my area. So, I did a little more research, and all of a sudden, Scout Carolinas popped up in the web browser. So I started watching his videos and seeing all the reaction from all the other people. We talked on the phone, we made appointments and everything. I sent him pictures, and he looked at them, and I was like, can you fix this? And, he pretty much said, no problem. My first session, he made me feel extremely comfortable. It was almost like I was talking to family. He started, and during the whole treatment, we talked and about our families and our life, and and things that he does and things that I do. And before I know it, the first session was over. When you see someone doing something that they love, as much as I see Enoch Glover love what he does, it shows in his work. I wouldn't point anyone in any other direction but here to North Carolina, Scout Carolinas, to get this done.
Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.